and we are headed live for the 12th episode of the Extroverted Gens.
It's been
That
a
is
year.
just amazing to me. Yeah.
I know. I love it. I love it. I love the fact that we started in May, which, we were just sharing, it's been a crazy year. And so here we are. When we started, who knew we would be at 12 episodes?
Oh, yeah. We're spending some time for those of you joining us today, looking back on this past year as we celebrate this 12th episode of the Extroverted Gens. And a shout out to Amy Murphy for tagging us as the Extroverted Gens a year ago and getting this whole adventure started for us. It has been a year, and I don't know about all you, but when this pandemic initially started, I was thinking short term, and it was all about survival. And then somewhere along the way, it became, oh nope, this actually isn't going to be short term, and I need to switch from just trying to survive to really trying to thrive and to make the most, even in the midst of a really challenging situation. And if
Yeah.
you're watching the recording, I apologize in advance because I'm trying to get my screen set, and so it may have just gone a whole bunch of different ways for a moment there. So I think we're set now, so hopefully I won't continue to make y'all watching the recording dizzy. Oh,
Yeah. The beginning, I'm always down on my phone trying to make sure I've got it shared on my Facebook and stuff too. So yeah, Jen, I have to echo what you said too. I remember, thinking that it was just short-term thing. And I think all of us were guilty of it and
mhm.
stuff too, of thinking that. And even like in my business and the decisions I was making in my business, it was mostly short-term and just like, trying to fix the problem. And then
Yes.
it's, as we kept going, it's like, okay, like this is like could be forever change, or like could be like forever adjustments.
Yeah.
And so for me, you and I've talked about so much of being extroverts, about how we get our energy. Like I truly get my energy from other people, which is, what I know makes me an extrovert. And I've had to, really work on being comfortable being alone and being comfortable being by myself, because as an
Hmm.
extrovert, it's really difficult. So, I was able to kind of change that, and I had a pretty active social life on Zoom for a while. And so at this point, my active social life on Zoom is not a thing. I was Zooming with friends a few nights a week, at the heart of the pandemic, when I
Yeah.
wasn't seeing people, which has actually been great, because I've been like connecting with friends that I wouldn't have thought about to connect with, like friends
Hmm.
from other states and stuff. And, I was Zooming with a friend from Arizona the other night, and it's just like, like I would have thought to do that, prior to this pandemic, even though like I had the tools and it was available. And it's just like, how many of us attended a birthday party via Zoom, or showers, and
Yeah.
it's, yeah. And so it's like, now we've got this like new network that we know is available. Did you ever do that before the pandemic?
Well, and I think the other piece of it, at least for me, is it has made me much more aware of, yes, I am an extrovert and I get my energy from other people. And it has made me very aware of the different types of energy I get from different people.
Mm-hmm.
And it has made me very aware of the relationships that I really value
Yeah, I
and
agree.
the ones that are really mutually supportive and the
Mm-hmm.
ones that are sustainable. And I think a lot of what has come out, and I know I've talked with several of our colleagues and friends about this as we move into the next year, is we can't forget, and we won't forget, the way that people showed up or didn't show up over this last year in our
It's true.
lives, in our work, um, in the work that we are trying to do to dismantle some of the systems of oppression in our communities and in our profession. Folks, there's that Maya Angelou quote that I love, that I've come back to several times throughout my year, of when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. And
Yes.
I think that this
Yeah.
pandemic has really shown me who I am in a lot of ways. It's shown me what's
Mm-hmm.
most important to me. And it has also shown me who are those folks that I really can count on and lean on. Um, and 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 that has been both beautiful and hard,
Yeah.
at least for me. I don't know about you too. And I want to just give a shout out and a welcome to Amy, who's joining us today, and to Jordy, who's joining us today. Uh, and Amy, we're glad that you are joining us and not joining us. She wrote, I want to join you, but part of my pandemic relief efforts for myself is to do something. I know listening and watching is doing, but I actually have to create something today, and I'm going to start now. I tell you, I am. So, Amy, I hope you're not listening right there now. I hope you're off doing whatever that is that you wanted to create, creating what you need to create today. As always, Jen and I are big believers in self-awareness and knowing what you need,
Mhm.
and listening to that. So, yeah, thoughts that you have, Jen, about those connections that we've made and things that we've learned about ourselves and each other.
Yeah, no, I can echo that too. And I feel like, so much of what you and I have talked about in the last year or so is meaningful connections as well. And
Mm,
so I feel like I've gotten better about letting go of non-meaningful connections, and I've gotten
yes.
better about learning where I'm going to learn too. And so like for
Yes.
me, I feel like relationships like now I need to have an ability to grow inside of it. And so it's
Mhm.
like I want relationships with people that are going to challenge me and that I can challenge back and that I know are going to accept me on my bad days, because like we were talking about beforehand, which I really think we need to start recording our beforehds. And
Exactly.
so, but like we were talking about before we jumped on and stuff, that it's, we have to accept those things, the ands, and living in the ands, and we have to accept that we're not always happy, and that we share other
Yeah.
emotions and we have all these emotions and stuff. And so I feel like that's been the big thing that I've wanted, is the people that, like I'll just share a story. I was really grouchy on Easter. Okay. Really grouchy. I just got home from vacation on Saturday morning, and I went out on Saturday and bought everything for Easter dinner and all my kids' Easter
Mhm.
baskets on Saturday. So I spent my entire Saturday prepping for Easter. And then I invited my
Oh,
family, who I just spent a week with in Florida, over to my house for Easter Sunday. And I made dinner.
wow.
I was grumpy. I was very, very grumpy. I bit off way more than I could chew, way
Yeah.
more than I could chew. And it ended with me going upstairs and taking a nap.
I
I
love
was
that.
just like, I can't do it. I can't
Yeah.
do it. I can't do it. And so it's like, and I went back and I apologized to my parents and to my sister, because I was grumpy. I was very grumpy. And and they loved me, and my mom was like, you did a lot. She's like,
Yeah.
you did a lot. And I did, and I shouldn't have. I should not
Mhm.
have. I should
Yeah.
have said, we're ordering pizza on
Yeah.
Easter,
Yeah.
or we're not doing whatever, because we had just literally got back the day before. And so, but I still wanted to do it. And the day overall was still great. But I did have my moment of being a grump ass.
The infamous fourth G. For those of you who are new to us and to this idea of embracing the and, my motto throughout this pandemic has been grief, gratitude, and grace, and embracing all of those together. So having space for the grief, because there is a lot of it, and having space for the gratitude too, because there is so much that we are grateful for, and giving ourselves and each other grace as we go throughout this time period, knowing that we're all human, just like Jen was just talking about, and we need to give ourselves grace that we can't do it all. We've talked before about juggling all the different balls and knowing which ones are rubber and can bounce, and being careful with the ones that are
Mm-hmm.
glass that we don't want to drop, and how important that is. And then we joke that the fourth G, of course, is grump ass. And I've added a fifth one, if you notice in our description of our time together today, of growth as well, and
Mm-hmm.
just embracing the grief, the gratitude, the grace, and then the growth that has come out of this year. I know for me, and I know for many of us, some of that is personal growth, some of that is professional growth, and just being aware of all of those different aspects of ourselves.
Yes.
Jen, I'm hearing a reverberation. Is that on your end or mine, or an echo of
Uh,
our show?
I don't hear it. Oh, I wonder if it's the sound on my phone. Is that better?
That is better. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, I
cool.
think we're
Yeah, I
getting
have
phone
it up
coming
on my
through.
phone so I could see. So we did have Anissa is joining us. So she's a music therapist that came from Indiana. So I know Anissa, and she is joining us and says hello. And then a friend, Vinny. Hi, thanks for joining us today, Vinny.
Yeah, welcome all. We're glad to have you all with us. Please feel free to share your thoughts, your wisdom, your experiences in the comments as well, or just say hello and let us know that you are here with us, or any questions that you have. Jen and I are spending some time today just looking back, as we honor. It's that combination of, I don't know if celebrate is the right word. The 12th episode of the Extroverted Gens. Yes, Guide to COVID-19. Who knew we'd be 12 episodes in? So I think too, it's a
Yeah.
combination of, yeah, we celebrate and we just honor. We honor what this year has been, and all of it, honor the challenges of this year, and all that we've learned, and honor, as Jen was sharing, and we were talking about our perspective on this episode of honoring the resilience that it has
Mhm.
taken, to be here and to continue to As Melanie DeMore sings about, to put one foot in front of the other and lead with love through everything that has been going on.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you talk about the three G's, so I feel like the grace, gratitude, and grief, the one that I feel like I've always kind of shied away from is obviously grief.
Mm.
And I feel like this year alone, I've been learning a lot more about what grief looks like and accepting grief from others and understanding, what grief looks like and that it looks very different for everybody.
Yes.
But so we had talked a while back about our year words. So grace and gratitude were words that I had used for my themes in the last few years. So 2018, my theme was grace. And in
Mhm.
2019, my theme was gratitude. And so I really hold on to a lot of grace and a lot of gratitude within my life. And I feel like, that in 2019, when gratitude was part of my word, it really changed my life. Like looking at gratitude and like sharing gratitude and like trying to be grateful in the hard parts
Yeah.
and the hard times of my life has
Yeah.
been like one of the most changing things. So like I think I've shared a story before when I was like upset with Kohl's. Like I just still
Yes.
look back at that moment and think to myself, like, oh my God, I was upset with Kohl's. And instead of like letting myself hang there, I just started like reciting all the things that I was grateful
Mhm.
for. And it like really shifted my mindset. And
Yeah.
it really helped me in that moment. And I'm not, displacing that, that we can't feel grief and we can't feel upset and we can't feel those things because we absolutely can feel those things and still be
Hmm.
grateful in the
Yes.
moment
Yes.
and still have that gratitude even through the hardships. So this year, my word is presence. And
Wow.
so I have been trying as hard as I can to figure out ways of presence. And I loved yesterday in the in your MT mentor group, Kyle Fleming saying that he leaves his phone in his room. I was like, because I've been trying as hard as I can to get off my phone as much as possible and then looking at ways of doing that. And so that's a big one for me. I need to start setting my phone away because one of the things that I have found that I've gotten really bad at is that because
Mhm.
of the fact that I don't have as much connection in my day-to-day life and as much connection as I did prior to COVID, I find it through social media.
Mm.
And so I
Yeah.
have found myself spending way more time on social media, engaging with way more people on social media. I talk to more people on social media than I've ever talked to in social media prior to COVID. And not all of it is the most healthy connections, and not all of it is necessarily, what's bringing me joy in my life. And so I've got to figure out those ways of being
Yeah.
purposeful with my social media and being
Mhm.
purposeful with the things that I do when I'm attached to my phone. And my kids notice it too. And so I, been having conversations with my kids about it too, because I know that my kids see it and they notice it. And so, and it's not, my kids aren't like, Mom, but we talk about it. And
Yeah.
so, and I try to explain to them and help them too. Yep. Shout out to Kyle. Yep.
Mhm.
So, so I don't know. Do you feel, have you ever noticed that, or what was your takeaway from Kyle saying that? Cause I know yesterday you kind of referenced too about, how great that was. And I really feel like that would help me in my presence and my theme for 2021.
Yeah, and I want to honor too that Kyle has shared this in across social media. So we're sharing something that he's publicly talked about as well, and not some of our
Oh
private
yeah.
information there. And Kyle has talked about this on his social media platforms. And so if you follow Kyle, check out that more. And I believe the app he uses is called Forest, if I'm
Ooh,
remembering correctly.
okay.
And Kyle, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. I can look that up later too. As we were talking about some of these boundaries that we need to set, and I think that's really what it comes down to for me when we talk about social media, as well as our other relationships, is having boundaries around that. And I know for me, some of that is being very aware of what I allow notifications for. And so I
Mm,
have almost all notifications off on my phone. And in fact,
I like that.
there's only one notification that I allow, other than like weather warnings. The only other notification that I allow to be an audible one is a different messaging. My husband and I use WhatsApp, and most of my friends don't use that. So if I get a WhatsApp message, it's generally from my husband. And so that's the only one that I have on sound, just because he's one of the only ones who would need to contact me more urgently or more frequently. And I'm very aware, I keep some of my messaging apps that I use with my family. I have show up that I have a message, but I don't have them audible because if you know me and my family, we like to message back and forth, and that would be a lot of notifications. And having traveled in different time zones, a lot of notifications in the middle of the night. I've just been very aware of that, but I don't have any notifications on for email or social media.
Ooh,
And so there are no like those little triggers, right, in our brain of, oh, I need to check that, so that I can set boundaries around when I check that. And so I have a couple of times each day that I check all of my social media accounts, but that's it. And otherwise, there's
mm,
some that I might check more frequently purposefully if I have something going on. Our empty mentor group that you referenced, I have that group that I check a little more frequently so I can respond to that. But a lot of my social media stuff, I have 2 times a day that I check it, and that's it. And that's enough. And so I think that that idea of boundaries around social media is important. I also think that idea of around boundaries around other parts of our life is
yeah.
really important. And for those of us who have switched to working from home, or as someone on Twitter said at the beginning of this, we're not working from home. We're trying to work at home in the midst of a global pandemic. We're for many of us, this is a new practice. And so how do we set boundaries around when we work and how we work and what that looks like? And so we have set those in our home. And I'm not at my desk and I'm not, constantly accessible. And that's a good thing. I have some really healthy boundaries around my work and as well as around relationships.
Sure.
And I think that that's an important piece that we don't talk about as much. And wanted to thank Vanessa for sharing that, we're becoming more open about some of these discussions, including overexertion, balance, self-care, learning to say no, all that boundary stuff too, right? Also the mindfulness and gratitude are a huge part of balance, and we'd love to see it. And I think that, Jen, that's a great opening if you want to share a little bit about harmony too, because I know that's one of the things that has helped me to
Yeah.
also let go of this effort to try and balance and to just, many of you know, a yoga practice has been a really significant part of my life for a long time. And I'm a experienced and registered yoga teacher. And I can tell you, even with all that experience, balance is always shaky. Balance
I
is
hate that
always
word.
shaky, right? And so it's been really helpful for me. One of the areas of growth, which is that other G I've added this year, has been really embracing Jen's idea of harmony. Do you want to talk more about that, Jen?
Sure. So a while back, the word balance actually sometimes gives me anxiety. And so I always like to think of this like perfectly aligned teeter totter. And if you've ever been on a teeter totter to get it perfectly aligned, unless you have your feet down, it's hard. And so like anytime when I first became a mom and, I've been, a lot of you guys know my journey about single parenting and I've shared a lot about it if you've been with us in the last year or so. I have 2 little kids and I have a business and I have a kind of a demanding life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at going to grad school in the next year. Oh, help me. So anyways, so me and my crazy ideas, I guess. But anyways, so harmony, when I started looking for a word that replaced balance for me, harmony was the first word that came about. So if you know music, you can't create harmony alone. So in order to create harmony, you either have to have another voice or you have to use something to dub your own voice, but it's not something you can do alone. So the idea of harmony was finding harmony in my life versus balance. And so harmony in my life was accepting help from others, because that was something I used to struggle with, was asking for help and embracing being helped by others. And I've always been the person that helps others. And so being able to accept help from others was a big tackle, like a big challenge for me. And so that was something that I really struggled with. So as I looked at harmony, it was kind of finding that community support, finding my support, finding my kids' support, finding the support from other individuals that gave
Mm-hmm.
us the opportunity to have harmony in our lives. So then as Jen and I have been kind of chatting and stuff, we've also talked about how harmony has so much dissonance with it too.
Yeah.
And that when we have that dissonance and that resolution, that's some of the most powerful parts of music. I
Yeah.
love those parts of music. And there's parts of music when we talk about harmony that it's always changing and it's shifting, and that's life. And so it's like, some of the times too in the global pandemic when I've been, having those moments of those dissonance in the harmony, it's like I can almost feel when that resolution is going to come, or I can see when that resolution is going to come. And sometimes we have no idea when that resolution is going to come, but we can
Yeah.
embrace the fact that we're living in that dissonance. And so that's been something that I feel like has completely always evolved. And then someone else said to me, and I've been trying to kind of figure out where I feel like I've been embracing harmony and when I've
Mm-hmm.
been back into balance, because someone
Ah.
had once said to me about like they felt like balance was just living and harmony is more of thriving. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and I can admit that in the last year, there's been moments that I haven't felt like I've been thriving. And then I've had moments where I felt like I've, got a handle on everything.
Yeah.
And then, that I'm kind of in the middle of surviving and thriving. And then sometimes I feel like, okay, maybe I am a little bit in that thriving part again, where I feel like everything's a little bit more harmonious. But
Mm-hmm.
it's, I don't need to label everything, and I don't need to, to figure that out. And I definitely don't have all of life figured out in any way, shape, or form. But hearing that though, too, like kind of, for me, it's that shift of that community support is what makes it
Mm-hmm.
different. And
Yeah.
so if we feel like that we're stuck in this balance game, that maybe it's that we need to find that more, that support. Where are our support systems? And that actually brings me to a point that Brene Brown talked about in her book, Braving the Wilderness, where she
Mm-hmm.
talks about belonging,
Mm.
belonging versus fitting in. And so
Yeah.
like, looking for the opportunities in our community and the people that we're with where we truly belong and that we don't
Yeah.
just fit in. And
Yeah.
that goes back to everything we've talked about. Oh my gosh, I'm like full
Yes,
circling everything,
it is.
everything that we've talked about meaningful connections, that
Mm-hmm.
meaningful connections lead to fitting in, or not fitting in, but belonging, true belonging.
Yeah.
And that true belonging brings to harmony. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
like, it's that whole piece of those connections. So the bottom line is those meaningful connections get you to those places. Oh my gosh. Sorry,
Yeah.
I just like
No, I
rambled
love
about
it. That's a whole
harmony.
full circle. And that's something Richard Rohr has talked about too. And that belonging is not being the same. So I love too that connection with Brene Brown's idea of it's not fitting in. It's not having everyone be the same. Belonging are
Mm-mm.
those spaces where we get to be our incredibly unique, phenomenal, human, imperfect selves.
Yes.
And we
And
get to
people accept
embrace
us
those.
for it.
Yes, we are
Yes.
accepted and we're embraced. It's not,
Yes.
as we've been talking about awareness versus acceptance in the world of autism, and I think it applies
Mm-hmm.
elsewhere too. And I want to honor those beginnings of that differentiation of it's not just being aware of our differences, it's accepting them and it's embracing them. It's this is who
Yes.
we are, and that's a wonderful thing. And being human and being imperfect is a wonderful thing, and we really value and appreciate that. The other piece of harmony, Jen, that I've really liked that we've talked about, and you've talked about it in terms of essentialism and priorities or
Mm-hmm. Oh,
priority
yes.
as well, is
Yes.
that within harmony, there's always one voice that is that primary voice that needs to come out. And I know that's been an important piece as I
Yes.
look back over this pandemic too. There were times when I needed to prioritize just my physical health. I was going through
Mm-hmm.
some physical health challenges at the beginning of the pandemic already, because why not? And so initially, when all my contracts went on hold, that was actually a really good thing because it allowed me to make the priority my physical health and to just
Yeah.
get that figured out. And I needed that time. I needed to be able to make that the priority. There's been times that my work has been the priority. There's been like this month of April, right now, the commission is my priority. The commission is doing several listening sessions and meetings this month with different music therapy stakeholders. And so the commission is my priority this month. And it means this month is going to look different than other months.
I
And
love
that's
it.
okay. And we've had to talk about that, in our family, we talk about that too, so that we can share where the priority is going to be. And so we can understand why our schedule might look different, for example. Also wanted just to share a hello and a shout out to Emily and Margaret,
Hi,
or
Emily.
Maggie, and Paula joining us today too. Yeah, Jen, you were going to add on about that with harmony.
Yeah. So, what was I thinking? Oh man, I just got
Maybe the
distracted with our
priority
chat.
stuff.
Um, oh, what was
Did
I
you want to
thinking?
share the essentialism reference?
Oh, well, in the essentialism reference, he does talk about that you can only have one priority at a time. But it was something else. I can't even remember now. I just got distracted. I'm so sorry. Um,
You don't have to be sorry. We're human.
true. It's very, very true.
Although I will add the caveat,
Oh,
we do want to be sorry for the things where we actually need to apologize for. A good
that
apology
is
is an
true.
important thing. Being
Yeah.
human and forgetting something, you don't need to apologize for that. Go for it.
Yeah, thank you for giving me grace. So that's another point is that, so I had a moment with a friend that I really overshared, and she overshared too. We both kind of shared. I wouldn't say overshared. We both shared about ourselves.
Yeah.
And normally my go-to would be to be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I overshared and blah, blah, blah. And then I've been trying to get out of the habit of apologizing unnecessarily, but thanking instead. And
Yes.
so I went back to her and I said, thank you for being a safe person and a safe space for me to share. And it
Yeah.
was like, it meant more to me to say that to her. And it meant more to her to hear that than me to apologize for it too.
Mhm.
So that's one of the things. So instead of saying, sorry, thank you for
Yep.
being patient with me, Jen, as I collected my thoughts.
You are very
Fair?
welcome. I use that in emails a lot too, actually. on those
Yeah.
places where, and I would say that this falls for those of us who identify as women or more on the feminine side of the spectrum, that we have the tendency to apologize for things we don't need to apologize for. So if it
Yeah.
takes me a little longer to get back on an email, for example, rather than saying, I'm so sorry it took me so long to get back to you, saying, thank you. Thank you for your patience. Here's my thoughts, or thank you for your patience. Here's what you're looking for.
Yep.
And going and saving the I'm sorry's for when they're really important, because we do need good apologies, and we need to be able to, particularly for those of us who are on this learning journey of trying to break down some of these barriers and systems of oppression, we're going to make mistakes that we need to apologize for, and then being able to apologize and do better when it's the really important stuff. Yeah. So what else we're going to add, Jen? Have I made you forget it again?
Nope. I remembered this time, and I made sure to keep it in my mind.
Excellent.
So you were talking about, when we were talking about priorities, that sometimes we have to prioritize ourselves. And so, when I read the book Essentialism, when he talked about priority, it like blew my mind, because he talked a lot about how that word was meant to be singular and not plural.
Yes.
And that when we prioritize too many things, it actually minimizes our priorities.
Yeah.
Because once you put too many things in that bucket, then what's your priority? You don't even know what your priority is anymore, because you've prioritized your whole life. And so, so that was one of the things that has gotten me to get out of the mom guilt too, of putting work before my kids, because the reality is sometimes my work has to come before my kids, because I have to put food on the table, and I have to feed them, and I have to, work, because that's an essential. So, one of the things that I was really bad at, and I still have to work on, is prioritizing myself sometimes. So a good friend of mine, Tiffany Shoemaker, she was one of the wonderful women that I co-authored a book with last year. She's amazing. And if you haven't checked out her work, you should. She actually talks a lot about how how she feels like self-care is selfish, and that it is okay to be selfish, because it is ourselves being ish, and it's prioritizing ourselves. And I just love the way that she talks about that. And it was like the first time that she ever said that, yeah, it is selfish. It is, because a lot of times we say self-care isn't selfish. Well, it's okay to be selfish from time to time, and it's okay to prioritize ourselves from time to time. And ever since listening to her think about that too, it's like, yeah, I can be selfish today. I can go upstairs and excuse myself for 30 minutes to take off my grump-ass pants and come back down to my family. And so it's like, it's okay to be able to do those things, and it's okay to recognize that we can be selfish from time to time.
And in fact, it's critical that we do.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I just really liked that mindset, and that, instead of saying, the whole sentence of self-care isn't selfish, just acknowledging that it's okay to be selfish from time to time, that we're important enough to be.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for sharing the book.
Link in the chat to Jen's book. We're going to put some other links as we finish up today as well, to some ways that you can continue to connect with us. Jen, do you want to give an update? Speaking of your roles as a mom and a business owner, as well as yourself, and creating that harmony, do you want to talk a little bit about Career Driven Mom and where that's at right now? And I'll get that link too.
I eventually want to get more into Career Driven Mom. It's not the season. It's just not the season. I wanted it to be so badly, and it's just not. I remember early on when I started with Career Driven Mom, someone said, your business is thriving. And my music therapy business is thriving, and we're booming, and we've got, lots of business coming in right now. And so this is where I need to be, is with this business right now. And so, Career Driven Mom's on the back burner, and it'll be someday. So I just actually started reading a book by Michelle Gala. It's I meant to bring it, but it's called I have a picture of it on my phone. I've been thinking about it, and it is called Mindful Parenting in a Messy World. And this book, I swear I could have written it. I swear I relate to her more than I've ever related to a book in my life. So I love Brene Brown, and I have learned more from Brene Brown than any person I have ever read books or whatever. Yeah. So, and, with that, Brene Brown is also much, her life experiences are very different than my life experiences. Her education is very different, where this author of this book references Brene Brown a lot and has learned a ton from Brene Brown, but her life experiences are very similar to mine, that are very, very much relatable to me. And she talks a lot about, she actually started a podcast and ended her podcast because she felt like it was taking time away from her family.
Ah,
And she wanted
yeah.
to be more present with her family and do less. And she didn't feel it was necessary. And that was something that like really resonated with me and like really thought about. It's like, if I really am going to go to grad school in a year, I can't have two businesses. I can't have these two businesses and fit time for grad school and still be a good mom. And
Hmm.
so, like you know me, and you know how
I
much I
do know
love
you.
business, and you know how much I love career driven mom, and you know how much I love supporting others and doing that. But the time isn't now. And I'm okay with that. And I'm also okay with the fact that if I go to grad school and I do the things that I want to do, that when I do relaunch or like when I do redo something, it's going to be that much better when I'm able to
Yeah.
give it more time. So,
Yeah.
but
Absolutely.
thanks for asking about it. So, but tell everybody about your awesome platform. And I'm a member and love it. But tell everybody about MT Mentor and where they can find you.
Absolutely. When we talk about the different seasons of our life, and I love that because I've actually just taken a break on my podcast as well. And I've been working on, there'll be an email going out to the folks on my email list. And that's one of the things that I talk about is in creating harmony, I needed to prioritize some different things. And so I was on a very regular schedule of sharing my podcast and then took a little break from it. And I'll be recording another new episode actually later on today. And so there will be new episodes. And there's that and, right? I gave myself permission to not have to be on a really tight schedule and
Yeah.
to allow myself to make the decisions for me and for my business and for my life and what is really important. And so the links to my podcast are in there, the MT Mentor podcast, which is free. And then as Jen mentioned, we do have a membership group. And this is something that I have made a priority. And it's been really a joy to make this a priority in my life. It's something that came out of the pandemic when we talk about the pieces that we are grateful for. I've always loved mentoring. I've always loved supervising. There's a part of me that's always been a teacher, and those parts of me have found different ways to come out. I actually worked in the schools for quite a while, for 11 years, and worked with a lot of student teachers and practicum students. And as a music therapist and business owner, have also worked with practicum students and interns in music therapy, as well as done some other mentoring through our Great Lakes region free mentorship program, which is phenomenal, and through just some professional supervising through my business. And as the pandemic was going on, I wanted to find a way to make mentoring more accessible. Quite frankly, my schedule, as far as being able to take on more one-on-one clients, was filling up, and I was already taking more than I had planned through the GLR free program. And I wanted to create an opportunity for folks to be able to have access to mentoring and supervision at a less expensive cost. Because supervision is expensive. And the folks who are supervising deserve to get paid for their time and expertise. And I have paid supervisors in the past and been paid as a supervisor. And I also know that that can really be a barrier. And so I looked at, what do I love to do? In all honesty, when I was looking at really thriving during the pandemic, I looked at the things that give me energy and bring me joy. And so teaching is a piece of that. So part of this membership group is monthly content on different topics in the field of music therapy and beyond. So we've covered everything from self-care and burnout in music therapy to bias, privilege, and appropriation to music therapy methods and person-centered music therapy. Our most recent, the April content, is about reflective and reflexive practice. And a shout out to Melanie Weishart for sharing some of her thesis work with me, because that was a huge piece of being able to share with the group on this topic. And so I love sharing content. I love that teaching piece. And then this membership group also has different supervision and mentorship components. So it comes with access to free one-on-one office hours with me, as well as weekly peer supervision groups. There's one for professionals and one for students. And the other professionals and students in this group are so phenomenal. And so I love that we have these spaces where we can share our wisdom together. It's not just about me as a mentor and supervisor. It's about the wisdom that we all bring and can share with each other. And so there's also a private Facebook group where we can communicate and share that wisdom too. And it's just been such an honor and a joy to watch that group grow
Mhm.
and evolve. And I've done surveys a couple of different times to see what is of benefit and to continue to evolve it in ways that are beneficial for the current members and for potential future members. And so we're doing some more evolution of it even in the next couple of months here. It's just been so much fun to be a part of. So MT Mentor is something that I've tried to make accessible For professionals, it is $49 a month. However, there is a friends and family discount, basically, or a refer a friend discount, as I call it. And so if you're listening to us right now and you would like that refer a friend discount, just reach out to me and ask for it. I'd be glad to share it with you. That makes it only $25 a month. And so it cuts it in half. For professionals who are from historically minoritized communities, it's only $20 a month. And then for students, and interns, it is either $10 a month or only $5 a month for students from historically minoritized communities. And so again, tried to really make it something that would be accessible and meaningful and beneficial for folks, and have been just incredibly honored by the wisdom that has been brought to that group and the support by you all have given to each other. Jen, since you're one of the members in there, just the support that people show up with for each other is phenomenal. And I'm really grateful. Going back to those, my G's, I'm incredibly grateful for that space where we've been able to share the grief together and the gratitude, and where we've been able to grow, and where we've been able to show up on our grump ass days and give each other grace along the way. So it's been just a wonderful place to explore that and of all those G's together. Yeah.
Yes.
Anything you would like to add as we end our time together today on this 12th episode?
I don't think so. I think it's been great. And I don't know if we're going to continue or not. We've been kind of deciding on whether or not we are, if we're just going to end it at 12. But, I've just been extremely grateful for this time. And I feel like this time with you, if this is our last episode, has been, I think I've grown a lot in these half-hour episodes, or 45 minutes, or however long they are.
We say a half hour and then we keep going. So.
and improv. We did say we were going to give ourselves virtual hugs today, because that was my favorite from last time.
There we go.
Is this
One
what
of
it is?
Powers activate.
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah.
So share your input too, as Jen and I decide moving forward, if we want to continue this on a regular basis, or if we want to just show up every now and then when there's topics that we want to share and discuss, or if we would just want to say this has been a delightful journey for this season, and be grateful that it was what it was and has been what it is, and leave it at 12. We're open to your input on that too. If you want to hear more from us, if you're like, oh, thank you, this has been a nice chapter. Glad you made the final one with us, Vinny. The others are available on our YouTube channel, or on my Joyful Noises YouTube channel. We have a playlist of all the Extroverted Gens episodes. So you're welcome to go back and listen to the entire year and hear how we've grown along the way. And we really appreciate all of you who have been a part of that growth journey with us. And we look forward to continuing to learn and grow with and from you all, whether that's on here or in our other spaces as well. So thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Jen. As always, so grateful for you.
Same.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.